Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
Well, we come to it at last, boys and girls. They've released a trailer for season 2 of Amazon's Rings of Power. I'm not going to call it Lord of the Rings. Rings of Power, or Rings of Poop, as we like to call it here. We're gonna have some fun today. We're gonna rip this show a new one. The season 1 was horrible. It was an affront to Tolkien, to his work, everything he stands for, and it was just very poorly written. Like, didn't not respect the lore at all, did not respect the characters at all, made no sense whatsoever. And we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it in just a moment. Stay tuned.
The Young and the Restless. This portion sponsored by Oil of Olay.
So what's the problem with this show? What's wrong with it? Why do people not like it? Why do I not like it? I'm going to tell you. Okay, it starts out with the fundamentals. Why are they making it? Is it to honor Tolkien's work, or is it just to make a quick buck? Is it just a cash grab? First we got to look at who bought the rights. Okay, Amazon, Jeff Bezos bought some of the rights. I'm not sure if they're even bought or on loan to him. The rights to the appendices, which is at the back of this book, Return of the King. Appendices, I want to say 80 pages worth of material that they were able to use. It does cover a lot of history, though. There's a whole timeline. The second age that I'm looking at right now in Appendix B that I'll probably read through whenever we get to the actual events of the show. But first, we're just going to talk about who made the show and why. All right, so let's look back at why Peter Jackson made it. All right, he was tasked with he was an independent filmmaker tasked with filming probably the greatest fantasy epic that's ever been. And I think he did a monumental job of it. Now, the Hobbit trilogy, you can argue, not as great, not as good. A lot of people say it's horrible. I love watching them. I love watching all 6 movies that Peter Jackson did. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to the Gollum movie that's supposed to be coming out. Yeah, so we got 6 movies. To me, solid movies, even though The Hobbit was stretched out to 3 when we probably could have just got 1 or 2. That wasn't altogether Peter Jackson's fault. It was actually Guillermo del Toro who was directing it first, and then he left the project. I can't remember if he got fired or just quit, but yeah, he was going to do it and then didn't do it. So a lot of it got done by him, and then Peter Jackson had to pick it up. It's kind of a similar scenario to what happened with Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon with Justice League. We got kind of a jumbled mess. The first movie I love. It is solid. Unexpected Journey. The other 2, they get kind of bloated, because we got extra characters in there. We got Tariel. We got, what's his name? Alfred. That was a made-up character, too. And then more of the Master, who was barely in the book. I kind of like how his fate was changed, though, in the movie. I liked having the dragon fall on him. But regardless, let's look at why Peter Jackson, how Peter Jackson approached making the trilogy in the first place.
Did you have some kind of mechanism, in a sense, so that you could make sure that you were true to Tolkien?
Well, we didn't want to put any of our own, certainly in terms of the thematic material, we didn't want to put any of our own baggage. I mean, we had no interest in putting our messages into this movie, but we thought that we should honor Tolkien by putting his messages into it. and we thought he cared about things. The countryside and the rise of evil, and he cared passionately about certain issues. And we thought what we should do to honour him is to make sure that what he cared about ends up in the movie. That's what we tried to do.
Yeah, that interview was like 50 minutes long. It's with Charlie Rose. Charlie Rose did a lot of good interviews with him and other people that worked around this. I usually have my glasses on. That's why I keep putting my hand there. But let's look at how Payne and McKay, that's the two guys that did Rings of Power, how they approached it. And then Lindsay Weber's in the video too. She's right in between them. These two guys, I'll tell you a little bit more about these guys, I guess, after I show this.
Creative adventure of a lifetime.
Yeah, and you're following, obviously, the books, you're following what Peter Jackson's done and everything else. But when you guys went into it, was it important for you guys to kind of almost go into it with a clean slate to think, right, we're going to tell our story, and hopefully it will,
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way, I would just say, it's not our story. It's Tolkien's, and we just feel very fortunate to have been in a place in our lives and our careers where when we looked at the books, we were like, oh, well, obviously that's the story. And then our job has just been to kind of steward it along in a way.
Yeah, and what was the starting point for you guys? Obviously, you started this before. Streaming's obviously become now a big thing. Did you foresee it always going to streaming? Did you foresee it going the way that it's always kind of gone?
We all had an inkling a little bit. So JD and I, and also working a lot with Lindsay, we've all come from the movie world and working on what are called big tentpole films and sequels and franchises and everything. And JD and I, at least had reached a point where we were just sort of feeling frustrated with what could get made. We've worked on a lot of movies that didn't get made that, in our judgment should have, that could have been terrific. But it was just becoming, like trying to, win the slot machine. And after a while, we just started getting frustrated and thinking more and more and more about television. The problem that we had was we have appetites for these vast worlds and, huge set pieces and creatures and all the things you get in Lord of the Rings. So we just feel enormously lucky that Amazon had the ambition to do something like this right, not to do the TV version.
So when he said do this right, not the TV version, this is the TV version. This is a TV show, first and foremost. And it's structured like one. Kind of like a CW show, actually. You get a lot of interpersonal drama. I mean, there is interpersonal drama in Lord of the Rings, but I don't know. It's better written. I want to say the character development is better. The character development here is really bad. These two guys, they were close to J.J. Abrams. They're in his camp, so they, that was the connection there. That's how they got this job in the first place. J.J. Abrams, how he started the Star Trek reboot movies. These guys, they wrote for the third one, Star Trek Beyond, although they didn't get credit for it, so they must have not done a very good job. To not be good enough to get a credit on it. And then so they talk about, okay, we worked on these big temple movies, we couldn't get them made. Now, here's our shot. I'm not giving up our shot. So they got tasked with creating something out of 80 pages worth of material. But let me give you a window into what's in these 80 pages, like what you could cover. There's a lot of events that happen just in the Second Age that they're compressing into this very short period of time in this show. Like everything's happening at once, whereas in the books, that's not how it happened. Everything happens over like 3,000 years just in the Second Age. Over 3,000 years. So, okay, we get year one of the Second Age. Foundation of the Grey Havens and of Lindon. Right? Year 32. The Edain reach Numenor. So Numenor comes into the picture. 40. Circa 40. Many dwarves leaving their old cities in arid Luin go to Moria and swell its numbers. All right, so we got the dwarves in Moria. All right, that's setting that up, which we have in Rings of Power. And then skip to 442. Death of Elros Tar Miniatar. It's a very famous elf. Circa 500. Sauron begins to stir again in Middle-earth. All right, so 500. And he's not defeated until like 3,000 years later. 548. Birth in Numenor of Silmarillion. I might have pronounced that wrong. Silmarillion. I haven't read the entire history of Middle-earth. 600. The first ships of the Numenorians appear off the coasts. Okay, so we got the Numenorians exploring, right? Remember, they're kind of explorers. And this is, Numenor was based off of Atlantis. Tolkien as much as said that. I think it was in his letters I read that. Can't remember. Because people would ask him all the time, like, where'd you get your ideas? You know, where did this come from? How'd you come up with this? Eregion, founded by the Noldor. Now, Eregion, if you don't know, is where Celebrimbor ends up in Rings of Power. So some of this comes into the show. Sauron, okay, circa 1000, Sauron, alarmed by the growing power of the Numenorians, chooses Mordor as a land to make into a stronghold. He begins the building of Barad-dûr. So there was no guy named Adar or Adar or whatever that builds Mordor, that makes Mordor with a freaking sword into into a mountain. That whole thing was ridiculous. 1075, Tar Ankalime becomes the first ruling queen of Numenor. So this woman that's in the show, I don't remember if she exists or not. I think that part of the lore was made up because Ar-Pharazôn was the one ruling at Numenor before the district comes. 1200, Sauron endeavors to seduce the Eldar. Gil-galad refuses to treat with him, but the Smiths of Eregion are won over. So that includes Celebrimbor. The Numenorians begin to make permanent havens. Circa 1500, the Elven Smiths, instructed by Sauron, reach the height of their skill. They begin forging the Rings of Power. So that's not until 300 years after Sauron even enters the picture. So already this show is totally screwing up the timeline. Circa 1590, the three rings are completed in Eregion. That's 90 years after they even start making Rings of Power. See, they spent 90 years perfecting the craft. Oh, by the way, I'll show that clip, but Celebrimbor doesn't know how to make use alloys. Sorry. The greatest smith in all of history, of Middle-earth history. Circa 1600, Sauron forges the One Ring in Orodruin. He completes the Barad-dûr. Celebrimbor perceives the designs of Sauron. Not until like 1,000 years later does he perceive the designs of Sauron. Now, that's how good Sauron was. He could disguise himself. Oh, you'll see in that trailer, by the way, how well he disguises himself in Rings of Power. 1693. This is 93 years later after Celebrimbor perceives the designs of Sauron. War of the Elves and Sauron begins. So there's a lot of prep there. I guess Celebrimbor had trouble getting people to believe him about Sauron. The three rings are hidden. So, okay. I know Galadriel ends up with one. One of the elf lords ends up with one, but he gives it to Gandalf later, so that's how come Gandalf has the Ring of Fire later. And then Elrond has one. Sauron's forces invade Eriador. Gil-galad sends Elrond to Eregion. That's in 1695. That's just 2 years after the three rings are hidden. And then in 1697, 2 years later, Eregion is laid waste and Celebrimbor dies. If you don't know, his fate is kind of messed up. Like they end up using his body as a banner in the battle. Pretty messed up. Moria, the gates of Moria are shut, and Elrond retreats with the remnant of the Noldor and founds the refuge of Imladris, aka crap. Why am I blanking on it now? Rivendell. We all know Rivendell. 1699. That is just 2 years later. Sauron overruns Eriador. In 1700, Tar Minastir sends a great navy from Numenor to Lindon, and Sauron is defeated. Now, not for good. Now that we're not there yet. 1701, Sauron is driven out of Eriador, and the Westlands have peace for a long while. So about 1,000 years. No, not 1,000. 100 years. Circa 1800. From about this time onward, the Númenóreans begin to establish dominions on the coast. Sauron extends his power eastwards. The shadow falls on Númenor. So, okay, we got the rise of Sauron takes place. Was that at least 200? At least 200 years before the fall of Númenor. Let's see. 2251. Tar Atanamir takes the scepter. Rebellion and division of the Númenóreans begins. So it wasn't about elves coming in. They weren't racist against elves like they are in Rings of Power. That was ridiculous. It wasn't a immigration allegory. About this time, the Nazgul or Ringwraiths, slaves of the Nine Rings, first appear. 2251, Second Age. In 2280, Umbar is made into a great fortress of Númenor. In 2350, this almost, what is that, 100 years later? Almost 100 years later. Pelargir is built. It becomes the chief haven of the faithful Númenóreans. In 2899, Ar Adunakor takes the scepter. It's another ruler of Númenor. So the Númenóreans rule for a long time. 3175, Repentance of Tar Palantir, Civil War in Númenor. Yeah, this is where the Seeing Stones come from. It's Númenor. And Isildur and them, they're descendants of the Númenóreans. 3255, Ar Pharazôn the Golden seizes the scepter. See, this is, what does that? It's like 2,000 years after the rise of Sauron. 3261, Ar Pharazôn sets sail and lands at Umbar. 3262, Sauron is taken as prisoner to Númenor. 3262 to 3310, Sauron seduces the king, corrupts the Númenóreans. So they've kind of shown a little bit of him. They showed him getting captured by the Númenóreans. But has he corrupted the king, really? Maybe they'll show more of that. I don't know. 3310, Ar Pharazôn begins the building of the Great Armament. 3319, Ar Pharazôn assails Valinor. Downfall of Númenor. See, they flew too close to the sun. They tread where men were not meant to go, and that led to their downfall. Elendil and his sons escape. So, Elendil, that's Isildur's father. And Isildur's got a couple of, at least one brother. He did not have a sister, as the show, the show has. Of course, they got to put another strong female character in there. Just insert. Whereas Tolkien already had strong female characters like Galadriel. It wasn't that she could fight trolls and take down armies. It was the strength of her character and her grace and her beauty, the strength of her wisdom. That's what made everybody fall in love with this character. Let's see. 3320, Foundations of the Realms in Exile, Arnor and Gondor. So these are the realms that were created out from the exile of the Númenóreans. Kind of like, it makes me think of Rome, how it was created from the fall of the Trojans. Like Trojan refugees, according to legend, were the ones that formed Rome. Like Aeneas, the tale of the Aeneid gets into that. Foundations of the Realms in Exile, Arnor and Gondor. The stones are divided, the Seeing Stones. Sauron returns to Mordor. So in 3429, 9 years later, No, that's 109 years later. Sauron attacks Gondor, takes Minas Ithil, and burns the White Tree. Isildur escapes down Anduin and goes to Elendil in the north. Anarion defends Minas Anor and Osgiliath. 3430, the last alliance of elves and men is formed. And in 3431, Gil-galad and Elendil march east to Imladris, Rivendell. 3434, this is what Gandalf reads the entry from in the movies. The host of the alliance crosses the Misty Mountains. Battle of Dagorlad and defeat of Sauron. The siege of Barad-dûr begins. In 3440, Anarion is slain. And in 3441, finally, Sauron is overthrown by Elendil and Gil-galad, who perish. Both of them die. Isildur takes the One Ring. Sauron passes away, and the ring wraiths go into the shadows. The Second Age ends. So that's a complete timeline breakdown of the Second Age. And you can see from this show that they're packing it all in, all these events into like maybe 20 years of history. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do this. But you have all this promotion behind this show that came out before the show even aired that already put people off of this thing. And I want to show you in just a sec. Let's see. First you have the stars talking about it and not really endearing themselves to the audience. Let me go back. I pressed the wrong. Damn YouTube. It's this one. Yeah. If I can stop pressing the wrong buttons. The buttons kept moving every time I went to press one. All right, let me share this. So, okay, we had this one actress in particular that kept coming out and speaking about how this is diverse. This is going to change lives. This is so important because there's a black woman dwarf in this. Like, who cares?
Peter Jackson fans that are married to the films, what message do you have for them as they're awaiting the premiere of the series?
I would say come along for the ride.
Immense amount of visual representation and a vast accessibility for every single person in the world.
Yeah, I didn't cut this video. Somebody else did
and see a version of
for
themselves
comedic
staring
effect.
right back at them. So for us to play with each other as we play together in the world every single day is, is exactly where it should be. And what a great way to relive Tolkien's work.
But what do we learn about women dwarves that we didn't know through your portrayal?
Well, we learned that they exist. This is necessary. This is a revolutionary moment within our time. And to be the poster child of accessibility for people of colour, for women.
But this is the first time that we see a woman and the first time that we see a black woman in this area and this world and these works of Tolkien. You know, this is necessary. This is a revolutionary moment for cinematic.
The first to be seen.
There are black people in Tolkien's work. They're just not underground.
You know, we get her in a role of prominence and power.
This is necessary.
It's time for so many people who may have not seen themselves staring right back at on a screen to have that chance and to have that turn. Well, it's a reflection of the world that we live in, you know.
This represents progression. This represents an acknowledgement of where we have been and a will to get to where we need to be in order for this to be accessible
all
to
the
everyone.
usual
This is
talking
necessary.
points.
Time. I think with a franchise of this scale, it is so important that we make it as accessible as we possibly can for every single generation.
It's progression. That is the power of a female dwarf, and that is the presence that is necessary within our industry more than ever.
Tolkien has always been accessible to every single generation.
I am holding up the torch for, the women of that particular race and culture and kingdom.
It's progression. We are able to move forward, and we are seen and we are heard and we are acknowledged as having a right to be here as much as anybody else.
Anybody else.
And I know that people of colour will relate to that in that when we sing, when we use our voices, it comes from way beyond. It comes from our ancestors. It comes from the struggle. It comes from the desperation and the fight for survival.
Of having a right to be here. What I love about the costume and the look, it is unapologetic. You know, she has a huge slit up her skirt. There is skin. There is ever-flowing water in this amazing silk material. We are not apologizing for her strength and her visual beauty.
First ever female dwarf as a female dwarf.
Lisa, the first female dwarf that we have ever seen on any screen. The first female dwarf that we have ever seen in the works of Tolkien.
Of having a right to be here. And we are acknowledging, of course, all different shapes, sizes and worlds in her vision. And I'm so glad that we had such an incredibly passionate and collaborative design team to make that happen.
Of having a right to be here. This is necessary.
But there are so many diverse people out there who will have really enjoyed all of the works that we've seen before, but now they get to see themselves staring back at them. Like, that's incredibly important.
Of having a right to be here. And I know that
Nothing against the actress, but I think she's been brainwashed. Something.
there are many, many women out there like myself who will be able to connect with her.
this is necessary.
The generation that comes after us now, this will be their memory of Tolkien. This will be their memory of the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. And so we get to move that through and just be the beginning of this revolutionary moment for television. Of course,
I hope this isn't a lot of people's first
Lucas,
entry.
is my last
Tolkien.
question to you is that, kind of that responsibility to the fans of playing a character where they think they know a lot. So
And what I love about the writers on this show is that they have given every woman on the show, every female character, such agency. We don't serve the men around us. We have a storyline in our own right.
Of our version, I think it's something that really
They're saying Galadriel never had agency. Arwen never did.
feels right for our times.
And I, as an activist, as a long-time human rights activist for my homeland, Iran, tapped into what I believe is, thank you.
Activists. You don't get actors anymore.
What I believe women are doing.
I just think of my young self.
This
and
is
how
why
she would
people
feel
got
to see
turned off
me
like
on
before
screen,
this
and I have
thing
a young
even
daughter,
aired.
and how she will feel to see me on
Because
screen. So
all the stuff these people were saying.
I think that is it's incredibly
Like, oh,
important
no.
in more ways than one.
So we had the privilege of working with Tolkien scholars like Tom Shippey and amazing linguists.
Oh yeah, you saw that?
This to me just feels like something that has just the furthest.
Shippey jumped ship because he knew they were polluting the lore. You saw that, right?
Possible reach, and we're choosing to tell it in these times, so we should represent it for these times.
Amazon bought the rights to basically 10,000 years of Middle Earth history and then said, all right, guys, let's take all comers and see what you have to say. And we felt like the Second Age is freaking awesome. And it's Tolkien's amazing untold story that...
Yeah, it wasn't 10,000 years they got the rights to. More like 3,000.
Or race, there are females, and here I am.
And read the books. He wrote a lot.
All right. And then we get a comparison between the elves. Well, wait. No, this music might give me a hit. Hold on a second. Well, before we get into that, though, let's see. I got this other video I need to share. It's it's a clip. It's like a 2-minute clip of the super fans. It was a longer clip that they pulled off of YouTube, but people saved it though and re-uploaded it. It was funny as hell. And I watched through that whole thing, and it's a lot of cringe. This is gonna be cringe. Just the 2 minutes that I'm gonna show you, but watch this. Somebody cut this video, and they pointed out all the things that were getting wrong, like missing, from the lore and from the movies, which most people have seen the movies. I can understand if you haven't read the books, but come on, you can at least get the movie.
Growing up, I was still excited about being an elf or a hobbit and joining in with it, even though I wasn't represented, either my disability or my queerness wasn't represented. It just makes me so happy. It makes my heart warm.
With it, even though I wasn't represented, even my disability or
There's something very cool with prequels in the way that they can make you love the things you already love even more. So the fact that we're going to be seeing things that are potentially going to make us love the Hobbit films and the Lord of the Rings film, and potentially the books as well.
feel like there needs to be a reason for the rings to be made, right? So obviously with the wars happening, and then like, oh,
What was the reason?
For within these rings was bound the strength and will to govern each race. But they were all of them deceived, for another ring was made. In the land of Mordor, in the fires of Mount Doom, the Dark Lord Sauron forged in secret a master ring to control all others. And into this ring he poured his cruelty, his malice, and his will to dominate all life. One ring to rule them all.
do you think we're going to see another side of Sauron?
Yes.
Like maybe he falls in love. Maybe there's a reason. Every villain's a hero in his own story.
Be silent. Keep your full tongue behind your teeth.
People are going to fall in love with him and be like,
I can change him. We all love a bad boy, don't we?
There is no cursing little wish faintish on the tongues of men for this treachery.
I think that last part was the most cringe. I can change him. Oh, jeez. Hey, but right off the bat, they admit they haven't read the books. Like, maybe this will make us all want to read the books, you know? And and the other part about what was the reason for making the rings? They said that like you couldn't even remember the movies either. They said what the reason was. And she forgot about the blind guy, the guy with not blind, but he was missing an eye. Gothmog too, remember him? The pale orc that was on the warg in the Battle of Pelennor Fields. Yeah, they forget all this stuff because they're not really fans. They're not super fans. Obviously, they haven't read the books, so come on. But there's also a bunch of callbacks in this show, so they try to rope you in. Okay, if they know most people have watched the movies. Most people have done that at least, so they know how to rope people in with the nostalgia bait. The lines ripped straight from the movie. Lines, when taken out of context, don't make as much sense. So let's look at this real quick.
It's that way.
He's remembered.
No, but the air doesn't smell so foul down here. If in time, fear not. Always follow your nose.
There it is.
Are you sure?
Not entirely. There's a sweet smell on the air this way. When in doubt, Eleanor Brandyfoot. Always follow your nose.
Right there where they showed that, I was like, okay, this is clearly Gandalf. It's supposed to be Gandalf. They might not be able to use the name at this point. I think they just call him the Istar. So he's one of the Istari, and we don't know which one. They're not going to tell us probably until later when they have the rights to Gandalf. Maybe. But that's clearly supposed to be Gandalf. Then we get this other scene. All right, so we all remember this scene. This scene is badass of Galadriel being tempted by the ring. Here, watch this.
In place of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen! Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn! Treacherous as the sea! Stronger than the foundations of the earth!
All shall love me in despair. That was cool. Now, they try to call back to that when Sauron is trying to tempt Galadriel to join him. Like, join me. Together we shall rule this Middle Earth.
You would make me a tyrant.
I would make you a queen. Fair as the sea and the sun. Stronger than the foundations of the earth.
Yeah. See, just line callbacks every 5 minutes. And then this one.
Do you know how the orcs first came into being? They were elves once.
taken by the dark powers, tortured and mutilated. A ruined and terrible form of life.
I heard stories of elves taken by Morgoth. Tortured. Twisted. Made into a new and ruined form of life.
Yeah, so no originality, no talent. That's why they just steal other people's work. Because some of these words, these phrases were used by Tolkien, and some of them were made up by Philippa Boyens, Peter Jackson, them. Just the way they were said, you know. They can't. The Rings of Power creators can't find anything of their own that's actually good. Like the wargs in. It just makes no sense why the wargs from 20 years ago look better than the wargs now. Watch this.
Bring your pretty face to my eyes! That one counts as mine!
Yeah, $500 million production, and they can't even get the wargs right. They look atrocious. And then there's okay. We haven't even gotten into all the dumb stuff that happens in this series. Almost said about. I'm trying to watch my language because I know that some kids watch this. So, but like this prison break scene. I mean, I know Galadriel's an elf, but she's not like. I don't know. In this show, she's not presented as superpowers. See, in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, she's clearly got superpowers. Like she could blast people into oblivion with the wave of her hand. And I think there might be a video that I can bring up that demonstrates like the clear difference between the two versions.
Step forward. I wouldn't advise that. I can't very well let her leave. You could, if you knew exactly where she was going.
Yeah, the guy who cut that video together pointed out how ridiculous the whole thing was. I noticed that on the first watch, those guys just ran into the cell like they didn't do anything, but run into the cells. Like, okay, this how much money did y'all spend on this? Do y'all have editors at all? Like, how did that get past the editing bay? It's so dumb. And our friends at EFAP, they trolled this thing hard, and one of their clips had me dying laughing. I gotta share this because this is like when those people are all chained up. The orcs, have all these people captured. Watch what they're doing, trying to escape.
Okay, you guys got to see this.
All right.
What is that girl doing?
Is she hitting the dirt?
She's she's not hitting anything.
Oh no,
Dude,
you had nah, come on, $500 million. Come on.
What's the guy in the back on the right doing? He's picking up a stick and then just hitting the floor.
He's just hitting the ground, or maybe he's hitting his chain with a stick.
I don't see any chain. This is stick, Rags. What's a stick gonna do to a chain?
No,
maybe
sorry.
There's a guy trying to break the chain with his hands.
He's pulling it apart with his hands.
He's trying to rip it apart. He's trying to pull the chains apart with his hands.
Maybe I can just pull this chain apart with my hands.
Oh my god. It looks as well like the dude on the left is just hitting his own leg with the fucking knife. Oh god.
Look at the guy the guy on the left is just sort of, he's got just like a stick.
Yeah.
You had this in the editing bed. You're like, yeah, this is good.
Humans in this show are actually retarded. No wonder they made themselves.
With his hands.
Look at all these barbarians compared to the elf organization. These fucking barbarians just trying to pull like they don't know what metal is.
Pretty sure that the guy in front of as well. Like you were swinging that sword really close to that guy's arm. I gotta say.
Yeah, so she looks like she's about to hit the guy's fist. Like she's about to crush it with her hammer or whatever that is.
Why is this fist there? Part two? I don't know. He's holding the chain, but is he trying to rip it? Like what's he doing?
I don't know what anyone is doing in this scene. It's so funny.
I swear. That never gets old. Oh, man. I guess we can look at the elf comparison real fast. I'm going to have to skip through some of this, though. But they show you how the elves look in Rings of Power as compared to the way they look in Lord of the Rings. And there's a clear difference between them. Like the elves in Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, so much more regal, ethereal looking than the elves in Rings of Power. Look at the way Elrond looks compared to in here. You got Arondir, you got Legolas, Galadriel. These are, look at his face. That one elf's face. Elrond, a badass man. He was always a badass. Yeah, there he is again. Oh, okay. Yeah, this I gotta show, I think. Yeah, because this is a start.
I was there the day the strength of men failed.
Like a spring rain over the bones of a dead animal. Spring rain over the bones of...
Harold Elrond, the council regrets to inform you you won't be permitted to attend the next session. Elf Lords only.
I led Isildur into the heart of Mount
First of all, who... Never mind. I already know who wrote Rings of Power.
Doom, where the ring was forged, the one place it could be destroyed. Cast it into the fire! Destroy it! Isildur! It should have ended that day, but evil was allowed to endure.
Was there anything
That was good writing.
else?
Yes, your friend has arrived.
She's here. Why didn't you say so?
She just said, she just told you.
There's no strength left in the world of men. A scattered, divided.
Maybe it's because it's Hugo Weaving.
What have elves
So much
done
work.
to you?
Oh,
Do you blame us?
Lord. Galadriel in this show was done dirty. And this actress sucks.
What have elves ever done to you? Do you blame us for your being stranded here? I need to know how many the enemy were, under whose banner they marched, and then you are going to take them to their last known location. Are you going to tell me where the enemy is or not?
Just such an unlikable character in this show.
Will you look into the mirror?
As opposed to
What
this
will
one.
I see? Even the wisest cannot tell, for the mirror shows many things. Things that were, things that are, and some things that have not yet come to pass.
Leave the army to me. Why are you dodging the question? Because rather than rest in glory, I chose to seek out the very enemy responsible for your suffering.
Now, the showrunners, they use the excuse that, oh, she's younger, so she's more brash. She was more, like, vengeful. And Galadriel was never like that. Never, in all the thousands of years of lore, never like this.
I've pursued this foe since before the first sunrise bloodied the sky. It would take longer than your lifetime, even to speak the names of those they've taken from me. So letting it lie is not an option.
Gandalf the Grey did not pass the borders of this land. He has fallen into shadow.
A Balrog of Morgoth,
for we went needlessly into the net of Moria.
Just the way the elves speak in the trilogy compared to the way they speak in Rings of Power, just so much different. Just I don't know. Their words flow more. They're more mellifluous the way they speak.
Do not let the great emptiness of Khazad-dûm fill your heart, Gimli, son of Gloin. For the world has grown full of peril.
Look at you now, commander of the northern armies, warrior of the wastelands. I half expected you to arrive caked in grime and mud.
This time frostbite and troll blood.
The power of the enemy is growing. In his heart, Frodo begins to understand. The quest will claim his life. You know.
They couldn't have cast more perfectly for the trilogy.
You have foreseen it. It is the risk we all took.
The evil is gone.
Then why is it not gone from in here?
This part.
After all you
this
have
part's
endured,
been memed to death.
it is only natural to feel conflicted.
Conflicted?
That face she makes.
I am grateful you have not known evil as I have. But you have not seen what I have seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
Yes, Emmy nominated writing right there.
Do you truly believe seeking him out will satisfy you? That one more orc upon the point of your blade will bring you peace? If you are wrong,
I'm not
if
wrong.
you are wrong,
But theoretically, say that you're wrong, though. But you get the picture, though. They're showing a big difference between these freaking characters. The way they approach the elves and everything. Oh, that scene, I think she left one of them behind.
Porches
When they
give
were
off
out
no
in the snow, she left one of our men behind.
There are many ways to kill an orc, but for you,
And
I will
this
keep
is
it
cringe.
strong and simple. Stab, twist, gut.
I'm sure sword experts have a lot to say about
Come and
that.
claim him. Nino Hithaiglia Lasto Bethar, Rimonin Bruinen Lanina
Oh,
Nino Hithaig.
before I get any comments, I know that Glorfindel was the one that brought freaking Frodo, that saved Frodo at the ford. I know that, right? But rather than introduce a new character, Peter Jackson and them decided to give Arwen that role, expand her role a little bit, which I thought was a good choice. Actually, tied us more to this character, her being Aragorn's lover and everything. You know.
Hithaiglia Lasto Bethar, Rimonin Bruinen Lanina.
I'm sure sword experts have a lot to say about this. This is badass. It's the choreography mixed with Howard Shore's score. I think that made that pretty epic. As opposed to this nonsense.
Don't plant roots. Keep moving.
I don't care if she is an elf. There's too many people fighting her at once. Somebody would have overcome her. And the face she makes when she squirms. She makes a lot of awkward faces. As opposed to this badassery.
Faigivar,
Losing my...
Dinalank, Anurang.
Never trust brute force to best.
How long did this training sequence go on for?
It's often easiest to outmaneuver them.
And on each occasion, it ended in tragedy. It ended in death.
You need not remind.
Oh, here's another casting that was...
that may have been us.
This was
I
bad
forgot that
casting.
until-
Celebrimbor.
Till this moment. Isn't that odd?
you seem unsettled today.
They make him sort of a dotard and a moron.
What troubles you?
No, I promised myself I wouldn't mention it. He's your friend. Either he's avoiding me or he's hiding something.
Strange creatures bearing the mark of the White Hand have been seen on our borders. Seldom do orcs journey in the open under the...
Now remember, this is Galadriel's husband, Celeborn, who is so far absent from this series.
sun. Yet these have done so. In
the timeline, they're supposed to be together at this point, and have a daughter.
By river, you have the chance of outrunning the enemy to the falls of Rauros.
You know why a ship floats and a stone cannot? Because the stone sees only downward.
That made no sense. Like, who wrote this? Look, these are elves. This right here.
They're leaving Middle Earth.
This is Tolkien's version
never
of
to
elves.
return.
Ethereal, angelic.
What
These
were you
guys,
before the war?
You grow.
these are just normal dudes with pointy ears.
And you shall be returning home to far more than you left. Honors, title, your life will begin anew.
Lady Alwyn, we cannot delay. My lady!
Did you draw some water?
I think you talk too much, and you smell of rotten leaves.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, see, that's like Marvel humor. Like, why even show that? So dumb. Ugh. Anyways, oh, there was another interview with the showrunners, and this interviewer said, "Oh, I love the Harfoots. They're my favorite characters." I'm like, oh, do you remember what they were like?
Nobody goes up here.
And nobody walks alone. We're going to be left behind.
Wait, what? I must have heard that wrong. What do they mean they're going to get left behind?
Nobody goes up here. Come on.
And nobody walks alone.
We remember those who fell behind. Should any Harfoot fall behind this migration, they likewise will be carried with us.
Oh, okay. So they'll carry anyone who falls behind. That's cool.
In our hearts and in our memories.
Carried in hearts and memories. Why not just carry the young, old, sick, and injured?
Come on, Mr. Frodo. I can't carry it for you. But I can carry you.
These Harfoots are nothing like Samwise Gamgee.
Nobody goes up here.
And nobody walks alone.
Miles Brightapple, stuck in the snows of the mountain pass.
We wait for you.
So why not just pull them out of the snow instead of leaving them to die? It couldn't have been all that bad if all the rest of them made it.
Lovo Baljabook. Bees.
A hobbit got stung to death by bees? Yeah, that's hilarious. I'm really starting to wonder about these hobbits.
Nobody goes up here.
And nobody walks alone.
Any Harfoot that breaks them is to be decaravan.
And the Brandyfoot cart will be with us, at the back of the caravan.
Okay, so anyone that upsets the group will be put at the back of the caravan, which will all but ensure that they won't make it.
You may as well have stamped our name in the book of the left behinds.
So they just leave anyone who can't make it behind to die.
Nobody goes up here.
And nobody walks alone.
Actually, I've just noticed that there really aren't any young, fit males. I'm starting to get a really weird midsummer vibe from these hobbits. Well, the Brandyfoots are falling behind, but Meteor Man, that looks like Gandalf, might just save them. No thanks to their fellow hobbits who would have just left them to die. Hobbits, Harfoots. Are they kind-hearted comic relief or a weird sicko death cult?
A weird sicko death cult. This video's titled "Harfoots are psychotic," because they are. We've seen that through the whole first season of this show. The only thing on Harfoots in this complete guide to Middle Earth I have by Robert Forst is the most common of the three branches of hobbits. The Harfoots were the first hobbits to cross the Misty Mountains into Eriador, doing so about the Third Age, 1050. This is supposed to take place in the Second Age. We're probably going to see them cross into Eriador anyways. So, again, about 1,000 years off. The Harfoots were the most typical hobbits. They were browner than the Stores and Fallowhides, and also smaller and shorter. They liked highlands and hillsides best, and kept the habit of living underground longer than the other strains. The Harfoots were friendlier with dwarves than other hobbits. So that's all the info we have on them. Don't really like the direction Rings of Power took these characters. Don't like them at all. They're completely insane. They just leave their people back to die, and then say, "Oh, we'll wait for you. We'll always wait for you in spirit, but not literally. We're not going to wait for you, actually." Oh, jeez, so ridiculous. And then, of course, I touched on the Numenorians being racist against elves. Somebody trolled that whole scene with this clip.
Took our job! Yeah, they're down! Took our job!
Standing out here yelling rabble, rabble, rabble isn't going to help anything.
But we don't know what else to do, Mayor!
That's pretty much how that scene went. I mean, the audio used was from an episode of South Park, but that's pretty much the same scene. And then there was stupid dialogue, like I already pointed this
Give me
one.
the meat and give it to me raw.
And then, of course, we got Celebrimbor being a moron, and obviously not being the legendary smith from the tales. Here's how his story goes. No Doran elf of the house of Feanor, son of Curfin. After the death of Finron, he repudiated the deeds of his house and remained in Nargothrond. In the Second Age, Celebrimbor remained in Middle-earth and became Lord of Eregion and the greatest craftsman of that land. The greatest craftsman of that land.
Please, have you tried combining it with other ores to better stretch it out?
That wouldn't be suitable for this ore.
Why not?
Because in the amounts we need, it would too greatly dilute its unique qualities.
Forgive me, but at the risk of sounding a fool, couldn't the right alloy also amplify those qualities?
Amplify?
Where I came up, precious metals were scarce as hen's teeth. So we learned to combine them, to harness strengths and hide flaws. I've seen a trace of nickel added to iron to make a blade lighter and stronger. Might there not be some alloy to amplify the qualities of your ore?
Well, that is an intriguing suggestion.
I just noticed another stupid line within that scene, as scarce as hen's teeth. Like, that's so stupid. All right, anyways, it goes on. Okay, so the greatest craftsman of Eregion. Yet in the end, his skill betrayed him, for he joined with the disguised Sauron to make the Rings of Power. Okay, so in this show, Sauron is not disguised when he first meets Celebrimbor. Well, sort of. He's disguised as Halbrand. However, in the lore, he's disguised as a person named Anatar, who Lord of Gifts, who appears as a very fair, very attractive elf. Okay, elf, and they're kind of backpedaling on that with the new season. They're making him into an elf, but he still looks the same. It's not actually disguised. He's just got a wig on. That's what I was going to point out with the trailer, but I had to spoil that. Yet in the end, his skill betrayed him, for he joined with the disguised Sauron to pick the Rings of Power. Celebrimbor was the sole forger of the 3 rings. So we saw the 3 rings get forged in season 1. When Sauron forged the 1 ring, Celebrimbor perceived his treachery, hid the 3 rings, and prepared for war. He was slain when Eregion was overrun during the War of the Elves and Sauron. So that's the summation of Celebrimbor's life there. Now, as I pointed out with the timeline earlier, the elves had already been working on forging Rings of Power for, what was it, 90 years? Yeah, until they forged the 3 rings. Again, timeline compression. So this, show's just all over the place. You're going to see things from different ages hop into this age, and it's not it's gonna be too much. That makes no sense. Then we get the awkward shots. I already showed y'all a couple of awkward shots of Galadriel when she was fighting, the faces she made. This right here, this is one that got memed. Just, that smile is nightmare fuel. Okay, now we've come to the main event. I'm going to pull up Rings of Power Season 2 trailer. I watched it one time, I think, and then I watched some other people react to it. We're gonna get a lot of traction out of this, man. This is gonna be so meme worthy. Oh my god. Oh, there's more nostalgia bait in this too. Like, remember Lurtz? Remember how he licked his knife before he threw it at Aragorn? We got orcs licking knives in here. I think they had one in the first season too, lick a knife, but this just because one orc did it doesn't mean they all do it. All right, let's see. Shit. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it all the way through or just like pause it. Okay, so that was the last shot of first season. Sauron walking into Mordor.
Evil, ancient and powerful, has returned.
Some kind of goo coming out of the ground. I'm assuming it's supposed to be the same darkness that's been overtaking the tree.
Prepare yourselves.
We've got all these elves going into battle. There's Elrond finally wielding a sword. Was that Gil-galad or somebody else?
He worms his way inside your mind.
And that might have been Sauron. Like, he can shape change. Like, we know that. He can change into werewolves, vampires, all kinds of things. He changed into an elf, remember, to seduce them into making the rings. Is this supposed to be him or something else?
The crest of him slithers in.
I think he has been here. I think he's been here among us all along.
No spit. Yeah, look at this. This looks horrible. And how would you not recognize this guy? Okay, why didn't they just cast somebody else? They're gonna have him disguise himself now. Quote unquote disguise himself.
Every soul
What was
in
that?
Middle Earth.
Okay, I want to know what that thing was. That's what I want to know. What is this thing? That's I wonder if that's supposed to be the Watcher in the water from the Fellowship. I bet it is. I bet that's what it looks like. Well, according to Rings of Power showrunners, they want it to look like that. I bet that's what that's supposed to be, though. It did come out of the water at one point, right? We saw its face. Or maybe this is like a cousin of that creature.
Every soul in Middle-earth is in peril.
Jesus back, you guys! Because of Doom Bridge falling, there's the orc with the knife. There's the ring pops. There's the tree. There's Durin. Arondir's got to do like a crazy flip. Eagles! Eagles! Woo! Eagles are back! Adar, whatever his name is, new actor playing him. There's Gandalf / Stranger / Eastar. A lot of crazy crap happening. Okay, I could have told you that from the beginning. I knew that was Sauron from the beginning. When Halbrand first came onto the picture, I knew that was him just from the way he said certain things like, I have my own plans. And then he passes by a forge and looks at it like pointedly, you know, like, I'll see you later. All kinds of things like that that hinted at him being Sauron. You know, all the other red herrings, I just ignored. I knew this guy was Sauron from the beginning. It telegraphed it. Now what happened there? That fortress just get created out of nothing? Was it concealed and then it got brought to the light? What happened? A lot of people were saying that was Barad-dûr, and then people started saying, no, that's the fortress that the troll was in, that Galadriel fought at the beginning of Rings of Power. So I don't know what the point of this place is. If I guess there's gonna be flashbacks, whatever. Who cares? Show's gonna be garbage, just like first season was. Let's stop sharing. That's enough of this. I just wanted to, you know, troll this show a little bit, rip on it. It's kind of fun, actually. Kind of therapeutic, you know, for us Tolkien fans to rip on things that insult his name, insult his work. Yeah. Oh, Galadriel. I need to tell you her history because it'll help you understand how they have messed with her. Okay, this is a longer entry because she plays more of a part in a lot of the events. Nodoran princess, the daughter of Finarfin. Galadriel was the only woman to play a prominent role in the debate of the Noldor following the theft of the Silmarils. All right, now, if you've read the Silmarillion, you know what the Silmarils are. They're white jewels, very sought after before, this was in the First Age time, and eager to return to Middle-earth. She was one of the leaders of the host of Fingolfin. Now, okay, we could see her in battle if she was one of the leaders of the host of Fingolfin. So, okay, I'm thinking the showrunners of this took just little snippets of the appendices and expanded upon them. Like, okay, she was in like maybe one or two battles, but she wasn't always going into battle. In Middle Earth, she dwelt with Finrod on Tol Sirion, but when her brother moved to Nargothrond, she went to Doriath, where she married Celeborn and was instructed in wisdom by Melian. So that was her calling, her vocation was wisdom, was being a wise leader, not I almost said gun-toting, a sword-toting badass. That's not Galadriel's role. She had one child, as I mentioned, Celebrion. At the fall of Doriath, she probably fled to Arvinian or the mouths of Sirion. Galadriel was the only leader of the revolting Noldor to survive the wars of Beleriand, and at the end of the First Age, a ban was set on her return to Valinor. In the Second Age, which is when Rings of Power is supposed to be taking place, Galadriel dwelt for a time in Lindon and Eregion, and then founded and became Queen of Lorien. All right, so she's supposed to be ruling over Lorien at this time. This is the Second Age, which she made on the model of Doriath and the girdle of Melian, and sustained with the aid of her own power and that of Nenya, one of the three rings, which was given to her at its making. Throughout the Second and Third Ages, Lorien remained safe from Sauron, for Galadriel's power was such that she knew his mind, but hers was closed to him. That's how powerful she was. And she could protect Lorien from assault by any power less than Sauron himself. I don't. Do I have that clip? I might. Of her destroying that orc in The Hobbit. Yeah, there were other clips that I wanted to bring up too. Like, okay, so this we might be getting. Yeah, we might be getting this in the Rings of Power. I mean, they're foreshadowing it. Obviously, the fall of Numenor, which, like I mentioned, does not take place within the same time as the forging of the Rings of Power. Like that comes, the fall of Numenor comes later after that. So here's the scene. Fall of Numenor vision. So I think her name is Tar Miriel. Yeah, I think it was a made-up character. I want to say. Yeah, no mention of this chick. Oh, this is another ridiculous
in your
part.
house. You are no longer to be burdened by the day. This is our land now.
What do we call it?
This is our home.
Hail Adar, Lord of the Southland.
Lord of the Southlands.
Hail Adar, Lord of the Southlands.
Hail Adar, Lord of the Southlands. No.
If you haven't seen this, you'll probably laugh.
That is the name of a place that no longer exists.
What shall we call it instead, Lord Father?
He doesn't say it. But maybe. Who thought that was a good idea? Seriously. That's so dumb. And if you want to know how that volcano was formed, you watch this scene. This scene was stupid too. They thought this looked cool. That's the only reason they did this. Like, it makes no sense logically. And they'll Rings of Power defenders will just say, "Oh, it's magic. You know, who cares?" Those same people, they don't know jack about fantasy, like magic systems, you know, and how they work. They don't know anything. Okay, the trenches. The orcs made the trenches so that this water could flow through it and then get to the freaking volcano and set it off. All this was contrived and ridiculous. See? Like, okay, first of all, how does that even work? I'm pretty sure volcanoes don't act like this. What's in that water? Then we get a more character assassination of Galadriel in this scene. She just stands there. All these people getting killed. That guy died. They died. All these people are getting pelted. So many other people are trying to help. Galadriel just stands there. See, look. Even Halbrand is even Sauron is helping, and Galadriel's not. Okay. God. Stupid. Stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. This whole show is stupid.
That is one big pile of shit.